Hey guys, tonight we begin with a story that's so cheesy. You might just feel like you've stumbled into a medieval snack bar. Picture this, the kind of place where stealing cheese is not only a crime, but a spectacle, a moment that could land you in a punishment as bizarre as it is strangely fitting. And trust me, you wouldn't want to be the thief in this tale. In fact, you might not even survive the first day of this cheesy ordeal. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always interesting to see where my audience is scattered across the globe. Let's keep it global, folks. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It's a cold, misty evening in medieval England, and you find yourself walking down a cobblestone path with nothing but the faint flicker of torchlight to guide your way. The streets are narrow, and the air smells like damp earth and wood smoke, with a hint of something sharper. You glance down at your feet, your worn boots slapping against the stones. You're tired, a little hungry, and just as you start thinking about heading back to the warmth of your humble home, you hear it. The unmistakable sound of a struggle, gruff voices, a muffled shout, and the unmistakable clink of iron. Curiosity gets the better of you, and you slip into an alley to investigate. There, in the flickering shadows, you see a man, tall and broad, shouldered, being held by two guards. His hands are tied, his face flushed with a mixture of fear and anger. And what's worse, he's holding a giant wheel of cheese, like it's the most valuable thing in the world. A cheese thief. Well, this is a first. As you approach, one of the guards glares at you, clearly annoyed at the interruption. This one's been caught red-handed, stealing from the Lord's stores, the guard says, his voice a low growl. And you know what that means, don't you? You look at the cheese, wondering if it's worth the trouble. It's not like this wheel of cheese is the most impressive thing you've ever seen. It's round, lumpy, and smells faintly sour. But to these medieval folks, it's more precious than gold. The punishment, the second guard adds, isn't going to be pretty. And that's when it hits you. The thief isn't just going to be punished in any ordinary way. No, medieval England had a particular set of quirky, and, let's face it, pretty strange rules when it came to justice, especially when it involves something as seemingly innocent as cheese. Suddenly, you realize you've walked straight into the middle of a cheese crime scene, one that you'll never forget. But don't worry, I'll take you through it all, step by step, so you can experience it firsthand. The thief is dragged into the center of the village square, where the local lord, along with a few important-looking townsfolk, is waiting to pass judgment. You can almost feel the tension in the air. Everyone's gathered around, murmuring, and the only sound you can hear is the occasional rustle of the thief's clothes and the faint hum of the wind. Then, the Lord stands up, clears his throat, and announces, "For the crime of cheese theft, this man shall be punished in the traditional manner." You lean in, eager to see what happens next. And what happens next is, well, it's probably not what you expected. Instead of being thrown in a dungeon or facing a whipping, the thief is forced to wear a rather strange contraption, a massive, hollowed-out cheese wheel around his neck. The whole village watches in silent amusement as the thief is paraded through the square, the wheel clinking against his chest with every step. The cheese wheel isn't just an embarrassing piece of medieval fashion either. It's a symbol of guilt, of shame, and believe it or not, of an attempt to savor the crime he committed. If you're caught stealing something as precious as cheese, you're not just punished, you're forced to wear the crime around your neck for all to see. And that's not all. The thief is also given the task of explaining his crime to every person he meets along the way, because no one's allowed to forget what he's done. Some say it's the ultimate humiliation. Others think it's just an excuse for a good laugh. But one thing's for sure, wearing that cheese wheel isn't exactly a quiet punishment. Now, here's a little tidbit for you. Medieval punishments were often designed to make you feel the weight of your crime in the most dramatic way possible. While theft of food wasn't exactly rare, stealing cheese, something so fundamental to the diet and economy, was a serious matter, and there was no way out of it. If you wanted to live in a medieval society, you had to abide by its sometimes ridiculous rules. What's even more interesting is that cheese theft wasn't just about the cheese itself. It was about social status, about making sure everyone knew that even the lowest thief had to pay for their crimes in the most public way possible. History books don't exactly mention the specifics, but this kind of bizarre punishment was meant to show the power of authority, and to remind everyone that breaking the law wasn't just about punishment, it was about humiliation. And yet, Some historians still argue about whether this punishment was actually common or just an exaggerated tale. After all, medieval justice was inconsistent, and not all cheese thieves ended up with the same fate. The whole cheese wheel around the neck story might be an urban legend passed down over time, a fun little medieval anecdote that was twisted over the centuries. But one thing is for sure, the cheese wheel is a symbol of something larger, of the strange, bizarre, and often ridiculous ways medieval society tried to maintain order. As you watch the thief continue his walk of shame, you can't help but wonder how far people were willing to go to make a point. The humiliation, the public shaming. It all feels a bit over the top, doesn't it? But hey, that's medieval justice for you. A little bit of theatrical flair mixed with a heavy dose of weirdness. Now, the thief is nearing the end of his journey, the cheese wheel still clanking against his chest, and the crowd is starting to disperse, probably off to enjoy their own bowls of cheese without a care in the world. You're left standing there, with a new appreciation for the weird and wonderful punishments of the past. And maybe, just maybe, you'll think twice before stealing the last wedge of cheese at dinner next time. The scene fades as the cheese thief, humiliated and utterly defeated, slinks off into the background. But the story doesn't end there. Oh no. In fact, it's only just getting started. You can feel it in the air. The tension, the slight hint of something bizarre lingering in the village square. After all, if cheese theft can lead to public humiliation, what's next on the list of medieval punishments? The town falls silent, and it's then that you notice something strange. Over in the corner, a small dark figure approaches the Lord's table. A man dressed in a hooded cloak, his face hidden in the shadows. He stands there, not saying a word, just waiting. You try to look around for a clue, but the other villagers are too absorbed in the aftermath of the cheese thief's parade. The Lord glances at the figure, giving him a subtle nod. A moment later, the cloaked man is speaking in hushed tones with the officials, who seem to be, well, you're not sure, but it looks like they're organizing something. Suddenly, the Lord calls for attention, his voice booming across the square. Gather round, all of you, for there is more to this day than just the punishment of one thief. You raise an eyebrow, sensing that something big is coming. Something about the way the Lord speaks sends a chill down your spine. Maybe it's the way his voice cracks, or how his eyes dart nervously across the crowd. Whatever it is, it doesn't feel like a regular day in the village. You see, he continues, there are rumors. Whispers of something greater, a whole network of thieves, plotting against the very fabric of our society. Not just stealing cheese, but stealing from the very people who trust us the most. And it's time we dealt with it, properly. The crowd murmurs, some of them shocked, others intrigued. Cheese thieves, a network. What's next? The whole village starts buzzing, but you stay quiet, watching carefully. Do any of you know the true weight of a cheese theft? The Lord asks, his voice rising again. The very foundation of our economy, our daily lives, it all rests on the humble wheel of cheese, a single stolen piece, and the ripple effects can bring entire families to ruin. You shake your head, still not fully understanding why cheese has become such an obsession in this village. But you have to admit, it's all starting to feel like the kind of drama you didn't expect in a medieval village. You half expect someone to break into a monologue about the importance of dairy. But no, this isn't some story of boring economics. The Lord stands tall, his hand raised to silence the crowd. So, we've decided to go further than punishment. The cheese thief's accomplices, those who've taken part in this insidious trade, will be brought to justice as well, not just with the usual penalties. No, this will be something different. You lean forward now, intrigued. Different. You think, what could be more different than wearing a cheese wheel around your neck? You glance back at the thief, who now sits in the corner of the square, looking like he's just been run over by a cart. Then, the Lord gestures toward the cloaked figure, who steps forward. You can see now that it's not just any man. It's a member of the village's secretive council, the people who deal with crimes and punishments that go beyond what's seen in the open. The council members are never seen in public, so this is a rare sight indeed. The figure lowers his hood, revealing a stern face and cold eyes. We've devised a new form of justice, he declares. A punishment so fitting, it will send a message to all who dare steal from the people. The crowd falls silent. You don't know what you were expecting, but this certainly isn't it. From this day forth, the theft of cheese will be punished by forced labor in the cheese pits. A strange hush falls over the square, and you glance around to see if anyone else is as confused as you. Cheese pits, what in the world is that? The cloaked figure explains further, his voice cutting through the growing whispers. These pits are the heart of our dairy production. Deep, dark holes dug into the earth, where the milk is churned, the cheese is made, and the air is thick with the smell of hard work and fermented dairy. To work in these pits is no simple task. It is grueling, exhausting, and utterly demoralizing. You can almost smell the sourness in the air as he speaks, picturing these cheese pits, a place where the very essence of cheese is made, but also where the worst punishments are carried out. The figure continues. The thieves, along with anyone who helps them, will be sent down to these pits to work for a full year. No pay, no rest, no reprieve. The labor is intense, the work is back-breaking, and the only thing you'll see for months is the wall of the pit and the churn of the milk. You can't help but shudder. Forced to live in the stench of cheese, to toil day in and day out, with no escape, it sounds like a nightmare, one that doesn't even need ghosts to be terrifying. But here's the kicker. The council has this odd belief that the work in the cheese pits will purify the soul of the thief. It's almost like they think that after a year of endless, cheesy labor, the thief will emerge as a better person, a hard-working citizen who'll never steal again. As if spending a year in a pit of curdled milk and sour dairy would make anyone want to follow the law. You've got to admit, it's creative, and more than a little twisted. Let's take a moment here to appreciate the absurdity of it all. Medieval justice wasn't exactly known for being logical. Some punishments were designed to be humiliating, some just downright painful. But the idea of forcing someone to work in a pit of cheese, to churn it for hours on end, was clearly a punishment meant to break the spirit, not just the body. And yet, here's the thing. Scholars can't agree on whether this kind of punishment was actually common. Sure, there are a few reports and legends, but the historical evidence, it's well, sketchy at best. Some think it was a local tradition, a quirky medieval practice that the peasants might have feared. Others believe it's just an exaggeration passed down by storytellers, trying to make their tales more dramatic. One thing is for sure, it's a punishment unlike any other, and it leaves you wondering just how obsessed the medieval world was with cheese. Maybe there's more to the story than we'll ever know. The air in the village square still buzzes with whispers and disbelief, forced labor in cheese pits. It seems almost too strange to be true, but you know better than to underestimate the oddities of medieval justice. As the Lord dismisses the crowd, you can't help but feel like you've just witnessed something you'll never quite understand. Yet, here you are, stuck in the middle of it. Later that night, you find yourself sitting near a warm fire in your humble home, a bowl of thick stew in hand, trying to make sense of the day's events. The flames crackle and pop, casting fleeting shadows across the walls, and you find yourself lost in thought. What kind of punishment could possibly fit the crime of cheese theft? And why was this particular crime treated with such bizarre severity? Just as you begin to drift off into contemplation, the village bell rings. It's a deep, sonorous sound, echoing through the stillness of the night. You stand up, curiosity tugging at your mind. The bell usually only rings at important moments that demand attention. You pull on your cloak and head out, slipping into the cool night air. As you make your way back to the square, you see the guard standing at attention, looking far more serious than usual. The cloaked figure from earlier is there too, his face a mask of determination. They're preparing for something, and the air is thick with tension. The Lord steps forward again, his posture rigid. Tonight, he announces in a grave tone, we begin the first trial of the cheese thieves. You squint at the square, and for the first time, you see something new. A set of crude wooden structures is being assembled. Makeshift platforms, no doubt meant for the coming spectacle. A crowd begins to gather, some curious, others just eager for the drama. It's not uncommon for medieval punishments to be public affairs. But this feels different. The cloaked figure speaks once more, this time with a sense of finality in his voice. The pits are ready. The thieves will be forced to endure their punishment starting at dawn. But there's something else, something strange about this. You overhear a couple of the villagers murmuring about the punishments being too harsh. About the punishment for cheese theft being far more than any crime should warrant. A few of the older men and women, their faces wrinkled with years of hardship, shake their heads in disapproval. Seems like cheese is the only thing that matters these days. One of the villagers mutters, I never thought I'd see the day when they make an example of cheese thieves. And there it is again, cheese. The word bounces around in your head like the wheel of cheese around the thief's neck earlier in the day. You never thought that something so simple, something so cheesy, could hold so much power. But here you are, watching as the village prepares to hold yet another public trial in the name of dairy. As the night stretches on, you return to your small cottage, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling that settled in your chest. You lie awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to drift into sleep. You think about what could happen tomorrow. Could you be watching someone, perhaps someone you know, endure the harsh labor of the cheese pits? Is it fair? Is it really the right punishment for something as trivial as stealing cheese? The more you think about it, the more absurd it seems. You wonder if the punishment fits the crime. But then again, medieval justice has always been about making a public spectacle of wrongdoing. The cheese pits, the parades of shame. It's all about keeping the people in line, ensuring that they fear what might happen if they step out of bounds. You sigh and close your eyes, the sounds of the night seeping through the thin walls of your home. Somewhere in the distance, you hear the murmur of the village, and you wonder just how far people will go to protect something as simple as cheese. The next morning, you head to the square again, your heart heavy with anticipation. The sun is barely up, casting a pale light over the stone streets, and the village has already begun to stir. People are gathering in the square, all eyes on the makeshift platform where the thieves will be presented, their fate sealed by the punishment the Lord and the council have deemed fit. You find a spot near the front, eager to witness what will happen next, but also wary of what you might see. As the guards bring in the thieves, those unfortunate souls caught in the act of taking the village's most precious commodity, there's a strange feeling in the air. These aren't just petty criminals. These are people who dared to steal from the system, from the lords, from the community. The thieves are led onto the platform, their heads down, their bodies stiff with apprehension. You catch a glimpse of the man who was caught with the cheese wheel yesterday. His face is pale, his eyes hollow. The humiliation from the public shaming is evident. But this is something else entirely. The punishment is about to begin. The Lord stands before the crowd, his voice booming across the square once again. These thieves will now face their fate. For the crime of stealing from our lands, they will be made to work in the cheese pits for a year, without rest or reprieve. It is the price of betrayal, the price of dishonor. You watch as the thieves are led off the platform, bound for their punishment. The crowd is silent now, and for the first time, you feel the weight of it all, the weight of medieval justice, of a time when consequences were severe and sometimes so strange that you couldn't help but wonder how the village had ever survived. The cloaked figure steps forward again, this time holding a piece of parchment in his hand. The first cheese thief, he announces, will begin work in the pits at noon. The rest will follow soon after. You turn to leave, feeling a strange mixture of relief and unease. As you walk away from the square, the sounds of the trial and the whispered conversations of the crowd fade into the background. You're left with one thought, one burning question that you can't shake. How far will people go to defend something as simple as cheese? Just before I let you go, here is something to think about. Historians still can't decide whether the cheese pit punishment was actually common. It's one of those odd medieval tales that keeps getting retold, growing more bizarre with each telling. Some believe it was a real practice, while others think it was just a legend meant to add color to the strange and wonderful world of medieval law. Whatever the truth, one thing is for sure. It's a story that sticks with you. The day seems to stretch on forever, and the entire village feels heavy with the memory of what you've just witnessed. The thieves are gone, sent off to their fate in the cheese pits, and the square, once filled with energy, now feels almost empty. The air hangs thick with the weight of the punishment, and for a moment, you wonder if things will ever return to normal. But then, as you're walking back through the village, you hear the unmistakable sound of laughter. A group of children, small and carefree, are running past you, their voices shrill and full of joy. And as you watch them race toward the market, laughing over something you can't quite hear, you can't help but smile. Life, it seems, will go on, at least for some. You pause for a moment looking over at the distant hills where the thieves were taken, still unsure of what to make of it all. The cheese pits, forced labor, humiliation. It feels like you've stepped into a twisted fairy tale, where justice is meted out with dairy products instead of swords. A few days later, you hear more whispers about the fate of the cheese thieves. It seems they've started their labor in the pits, day after day, working under the watchful eyes of the council, churning and stirring the cheese, surrounded by the sour stench of their crime. Some say the thieves have already begun to break under the strain, their spirits crushed by the endless hours of labor. Others say they've found a strange camaraderie among themselves, a solidarity born of shared hardship. You, however, aren't so sure about that. After all, there's something unnerving about the idea of living in the dark, damp pits, surrounded by nothing but curdled milk and the sound of your own exhaustion. It seems almost poetic, in a way. You imagine the thieves, hunched over their work, staring at the walls of the pit, their hands covered in cheese and their minds far away. It's a strange sort of punishment, one that not only physically breaks a person but mentally isolates them as well. The more you think about it, the more you realize just how much of the medieval world was shaped by bizarre, almost otherworldly ideas about justice. And while cheese theft may seem like a minor crime, its punishment is a reminder that no crime, no matter how small, was ever truly insignificant in the eyes of the law. As the weeks pass, the village returns to its regular rhythm. The thieves remain in the pits, still hard at work, though you notice fewer and fewer people talk about them. It's almost as if the punishment itself has started to fade into the background, becoming just another part of village life. The story of the cheese theft, and the bizarre punishment that followed, becomes a quiet tale passed around by the elders, a strange footnote in the long history of this place. But there's one thing that doesn't fade, a small, quiet voice that lingers in the back of your mind. You start to wonder what happens to the thieves after their year in the pits. Will they return to society, humbled and redeemed, or will they be forever marked by their crime, unable to escape the memory of the cheese wheel that hung around their necks? You know better than to expect a clear answer. Medieval justice, after all, wasn't about clarity. It was about maintaining order, keeping people in line, and reminding everyone of the consequences of their actions. The punishments might seem strange, even comical at times, but they were designed to leave a lasting impression, to ensure that no one ever forgot the price of breaking the law. But here's the kicker. Historians still argue over whether the cheese pit punishment was as widespread as some accounts suggest. Some believe it was a rare occurrence, reserved only for the most egregious of crimes. Others think it was a common practice, one that every village used to maintain control. Still, others argue it's all just a story, a tale spun by medieval storytellers to add a bit of flair to their narratives. What we do know, however, is this. The medieval world was strange, and its sense of justice was even stranger. Cheese theft, as trivial as it seems, became a symbol of the bizarre punishments that existed in the past, a reminder that no crime, no matter how small, was ever truly minor in the eyes of the law. As the year draws to a close, you find yourself thinking back on the story, the punishment, the spectacle, the bizarre idea of the cheese pits. It's all a bit surreal, isn't it? You wonder how many more strange tales like this are buried in the annals of history, waiting to be uncovered. How many more bizarre punishments, ridiculous laws, and outlandish stories are there in the past? And as the days turn into weeks, you can't help but feel a little bit lighter. The village is back to normal, the thieves long gone from their laborious pits, and the memory of their strange punishment slowly fading into the past. Maybe that's how things work in medieval villages. One scandalous punishment at a time, until something even stranger comes along. But for now, you're content to let the story rest. The thieves have been punished, the justice served, and the cheese has been made. You can only imagine the strange legacy they'll leave behind. After all, who wouldn't remember a medieval tale that mixed crime, punishment, and dairy products? As you prepare to lay down for the night, a smile crosses your face. Life is strange, isn't it? The stories of the past, whether they're about cheese thieves, warrior queens, or the oddities of medieval life, have a way of sticking with you, like cheese on a knife. You close your eyes and settle into bed, the firelight flickering softly in the distance, and drift into the dreamlike space between sleep and wakefulness. Maybe, just maybe, there's a lesson in all of this, something about justice, or cheese, or even the way we tell stories. But for now, you let the mystery of it all fade away, leaving you with nothing but the peaceful hum of the world outside your window. A few weeks later, the town settles back into its rhythm. The whispers of the cheese thieves, their strange punishment, and the bizarre spectacle of the cheese pits fade into the background, becoming part of the village's quirky history. But even as life continues, there's something about that odd tale that sticks with you, like the lingering smell of cheese in the air. You're walking down the same cobblestone streets where it all began, your boots clicking against the stones as the wind picks up. The villagers are going about their business, chatting and bartering at the market, just like any other day. You pass the usual stalls, fruit, vegetables, and a stall full of freshly made cheese. No surprises there. But then, out of the corner of your eye, you see something you weren't expecting. The thief, the one who was caught with the giant wheel of cheese, is back. He stands there at the edge of the square, watching the market. His hands are no longer bound, and the cheese wheel no longer hangs from his neck. But you can tell something has changed. There's a certain look in his eyes, a heaviness that wasn't there before. He's free, yes, but the weight of his punishment still clings to him. You stop for a moment, unsure of what to do. Part of you wants to approach him, to ask him how it feels to have survived such a bizarre ordeal, but you don't. Instead, you watch from a distance as he seems to contemplate something, lost in thought. As you continue your walk, you can't help but wonder what his life is like now. What's it like to be someone who's gone through such a strange and public punishment? How do you live with that kind of legacy? Later that evening, as you sit by the fire, you find yourself turning the story over in your mind, replaying it like a record. It's almost like a dream, isn't it? The way everything unfolded, the crime, the bizarre punishment, the cheese pits, the public spectacle. You chuckle to yourself, thinking about how absurd it all was. Who would have thought that stealing cheese could lead to something so elaborate? But then again, maybe it wasn't just about the cheese. Maybe the punishment was less about the crime itself and more about what it symbolized. Cheese in the medieval world wasn't just food. It was a symbol of survival, of the community's foundation of wealth. Stealing it wasn't just a simple theft. It was an attack on something deeply important. Maybe that's why the punishment was so extreme. In a world where people didn't have much, stealing the one thing that tied everyone together was a serious offense. As you sit there, mulling over this thought, a strange idea crosses your mind. What if the whole point of the cheese pits wasn't to break the thief, but to teach the entire village something? Perhaps the cheese thief's punishment was less about him and more about everyone else watching. It was a warning, not just to thieves but to the entire community. In a way, they were all complicit. The village had to witness the consequences, feel the humiliation, and take part in the lesson. It's a sobering thought. History, you realize, has a way of making everyone complicit in its strange lessons. A few more days pass, and the town continues its usual hum. The seasons are changing, the chill of autumn creeping in, and the days grow shorter. Life is moving on as it always does. But in the back of your mind, the story of the cheese thief lingers, like an unfinished chapter. You wonder if anyone else in the village is still thinking about it. Do the thieves ever get over their punishment? Do the villagers ever forget? As you walk past the market one last time, you see the thief again. This time, he's not just standing on the edge of the square, but he's talking to a vendor, his hand outstretched. You can't hear what's being said, but you see the exchange. The vendor nods, and the thief pulls out a small coin, placing it in the vendor's palm. He's buying cheese. For a moment, you just stand there, watching him. It's such an ordinary moment. He's just another villager, another customer. But you can't shake the feeling that this moment is somehow more significant than you realize. He's free now, but the memory of what he did, the weight of his punishment, still seems to follow him. In a way, it's as if the punishment has never really ended. Even now, after all this time, after everything that's happened, the thief can't escape the shadow of the cheese. It's almost as if his crime has become a part of him, a permanent mark on his life. Not just because of what happened to him, but because of how the village views him now. He's a thief, forever defined by his past. This story, the one you've been living through and now retelling, has a strange way of sticking with you. It's not just about the thief or the punishment. It's about the way history works, how the stories we tell, and the stories we live, shape who we are. It's about the strange, surreal events that define us and the weird ways we deal with them. You lean back in your chair, staring into the fire, letting the crackling sounds lull you into a comfortable haze. History is full of strange stories, full of bizarre punishments, and odd, sometimes funny, sometimes tragic events. But at the heart of it all, there's a common thread. Whether it's cheese thieves or warrior queens, people are always trying to make sense of their world, trying to find justice, and trying to make sure their legacy is remembered. And in a way, that's what the story of the cheese thief is really about. Legacy. The thief might be free, but his legacy, the memory of his crime, will follow him for the rest of his life. And in a strange way, that might be the most medieval thing about it all. As you drift off to sleep, you can't help but smile at the absurdity of it all. Cheese pits, public humiliation, and medieval justice. It's a lot to take in. But as you let the weight of the day fall away, you realize that this story, strange as it is, has its own weird charm. Maybe that's the beauty of history. It's never as straightforward as we'd like it to be. But that's what makes it so fascinating. And with that, you close your eyes, letting the comfort of the fire and the peace of the night wrap around you, the world fading into the soft embrace of sleep. It's been a few months now since the cheese thief's strange punishment, and in the village, life has mostly returned to its normal mundane rhythm. You've heard little else about the thieves since their year in the pits ended. For a while, You wondered if they would fade into the background like so many other minor scandals, a distant memory of medieval justice. But then, one evening, as you're walking back from the market, something catches your eye. It's a small gathering near the village square. A few familiar faces, people you've seen in passing but never really spoken to, stand around, their voices hushed. You approach quietly, not wanting to disturb the moment, and listen carefully. The thieves. They've returned. Someone whispers, just loud enough for you to catch the words. I heard they're back to their old tricks. A chill runs through you. It's hard to believe what you're hearing. The thieves, the ones who were sent to the cheese pits to serve their punishment, are back. Didn't they learn anything from their ordeal? Or was it just inevitable that someone, somewhere, would fall back into the same old habits? You can't help but be curious. You edge closer to the group, hoping to hear more. The voice is quiet as one man speaks up. His tone serious. They've been spotted at the edge of the forest, near the old dairy farm. I don't know what they're doing, but it doesn't look good. The mention of the dairy farm sends a shiver down your spine. The place is abandoned, left to rot years ago after the last of the cows were sold off. No one goes there anymore, not even the village's most desperate souls. Yet now, it seems, there's a gathering of people who are willing to risk it all in search of something as mundane as cheese, or perhaps, as you suspect, something far more sinister. You decide to follow them. After all, you can't leave a story unfinished. Not after everything that's happened. As you approach the edge of the forest, the moonlight is dim, the branches of the trees swaying in the night breeze. The village square feels like it's miles away, the familiar sounds of daily life replaced by the eerie stillness of the woods. You hear a rustling ahead, and the unmistakable sound of voices, low and cautious, like whispers carried on the wind. You press on, creeping through the underbrush, your feet barely making a sound on the forest floor. It's a strange sensation. This creeping sense of unease, like you're walking towards something both exciting and dangerous. But you can't stop now. Not when there's a story to uncover. As you round a corner in the trees, you see it. The old dairy farm, just as the man from the village described. The wooden building, now dark and decrepit, looms like a shadow in the moonlight. It creaks in the wind, the air thick with the smell of damp wood and old straw. But there's more. A small group of figures stand near the doorway, hunched over something. Their movements hurried and cautious. You freeze, watching carefully. The figures are unmistakably the thieves. The ones who disappeared into the pits months ago. They've returned, and they're up to something. You move closer, staying hidden in the shadows of the trees. The thieves don't seem to notice you, too focused on what they're doing. You can hear their hushed voices as they talk amongst themselves, their words sharp and quick. This is the last time, one of them says, his voice low but urgent. We can't keep doing this. We're better off staying hidden. We've got to. The cheese is too valuable to leave behind. Another replies, a note of desperation in his tone. This is our chance to make up for what we lost. You squint, trying to get a better look at what they're working on, and then, you see it. Stacked high in the corner of the abandoned barn are several large crates. And inside those crates, wheels of cheese. Dozens of them, stacked one on top of the other, like treasure hoarded by pirates. It doesn't take long for you to realize what's happening. The thieves haven't given up their life of crime. They've just become more secretive, more daring. They're smuggling cheese, taking it from the village's stores and hiding it here, far from the prying eyes of the village officials. And they've learned nothing. They're still driven by the same desires that led them to steal in the first place. The punishment, the year in the cheese pits, didn't break them, didn't purify them as they'd been told. Instead, it seems to have fueled their rebellion, turning them into even more dangerous criminals than before. You watch for a moment longer, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. They're not just stealing cheese. They're running an underground operation, trading in the very thing they were punished for taking. It's both brilliant and absurd in equal measure. You step back, your heart racing. This is far more than just a minor crime. It's a full-blown operation, and you have no idea how far it stretches. You can't just leave it like this. But you also know that exposing them will come with its own dangers. The thieves, you realize, are not just a symptom of medieval justice gone wrong. They are its consequence. The punishment they endured, grueling, humiliating, and isolating, did not reform them. Instead, it drove them deeper into the shadows, where they could hide and scheme, where they could continue to live on the fringes of society, untouched by the laws they had once broken. This isn't about cheese anymore. This is about power, about people trying to bend the system to their will, about resisting authority in whatever way they can, even if it means sneaking around in the dark of night. As you turn to leave, the weight of what you've just discovered sits heavily on your shoulders. The cheese thieves aren't just criminals. They're symbols of something larger. The flawed justice system. The cracks in the medieval world that allowed people to fall through the cracks. They've been punished, yes, but they've learned nothing. The system, in the end, only fuels the fire. You make your way back to the village, the cold night air biting at your skin. The sound of your footsteps echoes in the quiet of the forest, and for the first time, you realize how much you've changed. This isn't just a story you're living anymore. This is history, a story of crime, punishment, and the strange, sometimes absurd ways in which justice is meted out. You'll never forget the cheese thieves, or the way their tale unfolded. But more than that, you'll never forget what their story means. A reminder that sometimes, the consequences of our actions don't play out the way we expect. As the first light of dawn begins to creep over the horizon, you find yourself thinking about the thief you saw in the village square that day. He's back, yes, but he's changed. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real tragedy of it all. And as the village slowly comes to life with the new day, you realize that there are more stories yet to be told. The thieves, their punishment, and the strange fate they've met are just one chapter in a much larger ongoing tale. As you settle back into the rhythm of village life, the story of the cheese thieves lingers in your mind, a strange, unsettling reminder of the quirks and flaws of medieval justice, and how even the oddest punishments can leave lasting marks on those who experience them. Days slip by, and life seems to return to the usual predictable hum of village life. The seasons change, with the cold air of winter creeping in. You find yourself wandering the streets more often, your thoughts still on the cheese thieves, wondering just how deep their operations go, and what consequences they'll eventually face. You can't help but feel a little responsible after all. You've seen something others haven't. You've uncovered the cracks in the system, but what now? The truth is, you've been weighing the decision to report what you saw. Report the thieves and their underground cheese smuggling ring. But there's a nagging feeling in the back of your mind, one that you can't shake. What good would it do? What would happen to the thieves if you exposed them? Would it be a victory for the law, or would it only fuel the rebellion they've started? You try to push the thoughts aside as you step into the village square one morning. The usual buzz of activity fills the air. Villagers haggling over the price of pigs, the blacksmith hammering away at his forge. Children running through the market. It's all very ordinary, almost comforting in its normalcy. But then, your eyes fall on the thief, the one who had been caught with the wheel of cheese and forced to wear it like a badge of dishonor. He's standing near the well, his back to you, talking to a group of farmers. He looks different now. He doesn't carry the weight of shame the same way he used to. His shoulders are straighter, his posture more confident, even defiant. It's clear that the punishment he endured hasn't broken him. It's only hardened him. He turns and meets your gaze. There's a flicker of recognition in his eyes, followed by something else, a smirk, a knowing look, as if he knows that you know what he's been up to since his release from the cheese pits. You're about to look away, but then he speaks. "I heard you were curious about what happened to me," he says, his voice quiet, almost conspiratorial. "I bet you thought that year in the pits would teach me a lesson, didn't you?" You try to keep your face neutral, but his words hit a little too close to home. It's hard to admit, but part of you thought the punishment would reform him, that the harsh labor and public humiliation would force him to change. But you see now that nothing about the medieval justice system was ever meant to truly change a person. It was meant to control, to shame, and to punish. And clearly, it didn't work. He takes a step closer, and you instinctively take a small step back. "You want to know what happened after the pits," he continues, his voice low. "The pits didn't break me. They only made me stronger. They made me realize something important. If you want something in this world, you have to take it. No one's going to give it to you, especially not when it's something as important as cheese." The words hit you like a slap in the face. You had expected him to regret his actions, to apologize, or at least feel some sense of guilt. Instead, he's standing there, more confident than ever, as if his punishment never even happened. It's a bitter pill to swallow. You walk away from the thief, your mind racing. You don't know why, but you feel a strange sympathy for him. Maybe it's because, in a way, he's become a symbol of everything that's wrong with medieval justice. He's not the villain you thought he was. He's just a man trying to survive in a world that doesn't care about his dignity, his choices, or his future. And in that way, maybe he's more like everyone else than you care to admit. The rest of the day passes in a blur. You try to shake off the encounter, but it lingers in your thoughts. What should you do with the information you have? Should you expose the underground cheese operation, or should you let it go? Let the thieves continue their business, knowing they've learned nothing from their punishment. The village is quiet, but the weight of what you know is anything but. Later that evening, you find yourself back in the square, the flickering torches casting long shadows across the cobblestones. The thief is nowhere to be seen, but you can't shake the feeling that he's still out there, watching, waiting. You take a seat on a low stone bench near the well, trying to gather your thoughts. It's cold now, the wind biting at your skin, but you don't mind. There's something comforting about the chill, something that matches the icy weight in your chest. As you sit there, a figure approaches you from the shadows. It's the cloaked man, the one from the council who spoke so often about justice and punishment. You don't know what he wants, but you can sense that it's important. He sits next to you, and for a long moment, neither of you speaks. The silence is thick, but it's not uncomfortable. Finally, the man breaks it, his voice low. "You're still thinking about the cheese thieves, aren't you?" he asks, his words almost a whisper. It's as if he already knows the answer. You nod slowly, not trusting yourself to speak. He doesn't seem surprised. "They've become a problem," he continues. "More than we expected. They've organized, become a network, and now they're a threat not just to the village, but to the entire region. We've let them slip through the cracks too many times." You sit up straighter. "What are you going to do about it?" you ask, your voice sharp despite yourself. "We," the man says, "are going to bring them back into the fold, but not in the way you think." He turns to face you, his gaze intense. "It's time for you to decide, friend. You've seen what they're capable of. You know what they've done. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" You take a deep breath, the weight of his words settling over you like a blanket. What are you going to do about it? And with that, you're left to ponder the question. You've seen the cheese thieves, their crime, their punishment, and their defiance. You've watched the village try to restore order, to impose justice. But in the end, maybe the real story isn't about cheese theft at all. Maybe it's about how far people are willing to go to survive, to bend the rules, to make their own way in a world that often feels indifferent to their struggle. But for now, the choice is yours. The question remains, what will you do next? The night feels heavier as you sit there, pondering the cloaked man's words. What now? You've spent so much time reflecting on the actions of the cheese thieves, their bizarre punishment, and how their story has unfolded, but now you realize you're part of it. You've seen behind the curtain, and there's no going back. The weight of that knowledge is settling in. You try to push the thoughts aside as you walk back through the village. The cobblestones are slick with dew, and the air has that familiar bite of late autumn. There's something about the way the village feels tonight, a quiet unease, as though everyone is waiting for something to happen. But what? What exactly are you waiting for? You pass the market square, where the usual hustle and bustle of the day has given way to the peaceful hum of nighttime. There's the familiar warmth of candlelight flickering in the windows of nearby homes, and the distant laughter of a family sharing a meal. All the usual signs of life in a medieval village. Nothing out of the ordinary. But still, it doesn't sit right. The thief's smirk, the cryptic words from the cloaked man, the unfinished business of the cheese theft, that still lingers in the air, unanswered. It's all become too much for you to ignore. As you near the edge of the village, the familiar landscape starts to blur into the night, the shadows deepening. The village houses fall away, and the open fields stretch before you. You can feel it now, the pull, the urge to see for yourself what's happening at the dairy farm, the secret cheese operation, the thieves' underground network. It's time to face the truth. The trip to the old dairy farm is a short one, but it feels like an eternity. The trees loom in the distance, their branches reaching toward the sky like dark fingers. The smell of earth and damp leaves fills the air as you walk deeper into the woods. And for a moment, you wonder if you've made a mistake. The thief's warning, the cryptic words of the cloaked man, they all seem to be circling in your mind, each one a piece of a puzzle that's too large to fit together. The night is still, except for the occasional rustle of leaves underfoot and the distant cry of a lone owl. You move cautiously, not wanting to alert anyone to your presence. The dairy farm comes into view soon enough, a dark crumbling structure that looks like it hasn't seen life in years yet. In the glow of the moonlight, there's something oddly alive about it. The air is thick with anticipation, like something is about to happen. You hear voices before you see anyone, quiet murmurs, low and conspiratorial. You crouch behind a thicket, straining to hear, and then you catch the words you've been dreading. "They've come back for more," one of the thieves says, his voice just loud enough for you to catch. "The council doesn't know yet, but we're ready. we've got the plan. The plan your heart skips a beat as you strain to listen. What plan? What are they doing? And then, you see them. Two figures, huddled together, whispering as they move cautiously across the grounds. They're carrying crates, the unmistakable shape of cheese wheels stacked high inside. You feel a knot form in your stomach. This isn't just a few stolen wheels of cheese. This is organized, planned. These thieves have turned their operation into something much bigger, much more dangerous than you could have imagined. And now, it's up to you to decide what to do with the knowledge you've uncovered. You move closer, careful not to make a sound. You need to know more. You need to understand what these thieves are really up to. Are they just stealing cheese, or is there something more, something darker? You can feel the tension in the air as you watch them unload the crates, stacking them carefully inside the barn. The thieves work quickly, their movements efficient and calculated. They speak in hushed tones, as if each word is a secret too important to be heard. You can't make out everything they're saying, but you catch enough to know that this isn't just a simple theft. They're preparing for something big. We've got to get this shipment out by dawn. One of them says, if we're caught, that's the end. But if we can pull this off. If we can pull this off, the other interrupts. We'll have enough to go beyond the village. This isn't just about cheese anymore. This is about power. Power. The word echoes in your mind, and for the first time, you understand what's really at stake here. It's not about food or money. It's about control. These thieves aren't just trying to make a quick profit. They're trying to challenge the system itself, to create a network of their own, one that doesn't bow to the village council or the law. And if they succeed, they could turn the entire region upside down. You take a deep breath, your heart racing. What now? What should you do with this information? Should you go to the council? Should you warn the village? But what if the thieves are already too powerful to stop? Before you can make up your mind, a voice breaks through the night, sharp and commanding. Stop right there. You freeze. The voice is low but authoritative. You know that voice. It's the cloaked man, the one from the council. You've seen enough, he says, his silhouette appearing from the shadows. Now you know the truth, and you've got a choice to make. You stare at him, your mind spinning. He knows you've been watching. He knows what you've uncovered. And now, you're faced with a decision that could change everything. He steps closer, his gaze unwavering. You have two options, he says, his voice calm but firm. You can expose what you've learned, tell the village what's really happening here. Or, you can join us. We need people like you, people who understand the stakes, who aren't afraid to face the truth. You stare at him, torn. The thief's words echo in your mind. If you want something, you have to take it. And now, you realize that you're standing on the edge of something much bigger than a simple crime. You're being offered a choice, a chance to take control, to change the world around you. But is that what you want? Or is this just another trap? Another attempt by the council to manipulate you? The answer isn't clear. Not yet. But as you stand there in the moonlight, the weight of your decision pressing on you, you realize one thing. This isn't just about cheese anymore. It's about choosing which side of history you want to be on. The cloaked man waits for your response, his eyes fixed on you. The world feels still, as though the entire village is holding its breath, waiting for you to make your choice. And with that, you realize the true question isn't just what will happen next. It's what you're going to do about it. The moonlight dances on the leaves around you as the cloaked man's gaze intensifies. The weight of his words hangs in the air, suffocating the space between you. You feel the full force of the decision looming over you, but your mind races, trying to make sense of it all. Exposing the thieves means the village will be safe. Maybe. It will stop them. At least for now. But the cloaked man's offer, to join them, to be part of something bigger, it's tempting. The chance to be on the inside, to understand the real workings of power. It calls to you, a pull you can't ignore. But then, you remember the thief, the one with the smirk, the one who had been so sure of himself. The punishment didn't break him. It only made him stronger. Was he right? Was the system, with all its justice and punishment, really just a mask for control? A way to keep people like him in check? You don't realize you've been silent for too long, until the cloaked man takes a step closer. His voice softer this time. You know what it means to choose a side. If you warn the village, you'll be doing exactly what they want. You'll be another pawn in their game. But if you join us, well, you'll have the chance to change things, to break the mold. Your heart races, the tension in the air thick enough to choke on. You think back to everything you've witnessed, the cheese thief's parade of shame, the long hours in the pits, the whispers in the shadows of the abandoned farm. You've seen how these thieves operate. They're not just petty criminals, they're rebels, rebels with a cause, and maybe that cause is one you can get behind. But is it? Can you really join them? Can you turn your back on everything you've ever known? The cloaked man seems to sense your hesitation. I understand your doubt, he says, his voice a strange mix of sympathy and calculation. It's not an easy choice. But think about it. The village, the council, they've been controlling things for years. The law is there to keep the order, but it's not real justice, is it? It's a system that protects the powerful and punishes the weak. We're not trying to destroy the village. Not exactly. We're trying to free it. Free the people. Make them realize they don't have to bow to anyone. You feel a chill run through you. There's truth in what he says. But that truth feels dangerous. Could a society like that truly work? Could you live in a world where the laws of the land are bent, twisted, reshaped by a few people with the will to take it all? The cloaked man seems to sense your uncertainty. He steps back and gestures to the barn in the distance, the one where the thieves are preparing their crates. Look at them, he says. They're willing to risk everything for freedom, for the chance to do things their own way. Don't you ever wonder what it would be like to live without fear of punishment? To be in control of your own fate? You glance at the barn, where the shadows move, and the faint sounds of crates being shifted drift to your ears. It's a silent promise, a promise of power, of freedom from the system. But is it worth the cost? Is it worth losing the safety of the village, the only home you've ever known? Before you can answer, there's a noise behind you, a footstep, the sound of someone approaching. You turn quickly, your heart thudding in your chest, and there, standing in the moonlit clearing, is the thief, the one who was caught with the cheese wheel, the one who smirked and spoke about how the pits didn't break him. He steps forward slowly, his face half lit by the moon. There's a strange intensity in his eyes, an almost predatory look. So, he says, his voice cool, you're thinking about joining us. Don't worry, we won't bite. At least, not unless you're trying to steal the last wheel of cheese. There's a faint chuckle in his voice, but it doesn't quite reach his eyes. He watches you closely, as if sizing you up. It's not an easy decision. He continues, but if you choose to walk away, you'll never be part of anything that matters. You'll just keep going through the motions, like everyone else. Like we all did before we realized that the law doesn't protect the people, it controls them. You hesitate, the weight of his words sinking deep into your chest. You know he's not wrong. You've seen the cracks in the system, the unfairness of it all. But to join them, to become part of this underground world of thieves and rebels, is that the right choice? What happens when you stop following the rules? What happens when the punishment no longer scares you? The cloaked man watches your internal battle with quiet patience, but there's an undeniable urgency in his stance. You don't have to decide right now, he says, his voice low but persuasive. Take your time, but remember, the longer you wait, the more we control the narrative, the more you stay on the outside, the less power you have. And there it is, the final offer, power, freedom, the chance to shape your destiny. But at what cost? You think back to the village, to the people you know, the familiar faces that have become a part of your life. Can you really leave them behind? Can you walk away from everything you've ever known, just to be part of something bigger? Can you live in a world where control belongs to a few, where the laws are nothing more than suggestions for those too weak to fight back? The choice is yours. As you look between the thief, the cloaked man, and the dark shadows of the barn, you realize something. This isn't just about cheese. It's about something deeper, about control, power, and the lengths people will go to reclaim their freedom. You breathe in deeply, the cold night air filling your lungs, and make your choice. But even as you decide, you can't help but wonder, is there a line between freedom and anarchy? And if you cross it, where will you end up? The decision feels heavier than it should. As you stand there, caught between the cloaked man, the thief, and the dark barn looming in the distance, a strange sense of finality settles over you. This isn't just a crossroads anymore. It's a turning point. Your heart races as the weight of your choice presses down on you. The thief notices your hesitation and smirks again, that same defiant look in his eyes. You don't need to make this complicated, he says, his voice laced with a hint of amusement. Either you join us, or you walk away and let the world keep spinning on its miserable axis. But trust me, if you choose the latter, you'll never look at the village the same way again. You'll be stuck with that same feeling, always wondering what could have been. You shift uncomfortably, torn. There's a part of you that craves what he's offering, control, power, the chance to reshape everything. The cloak of the village's laws, the endless punishments, the unspoken rules that govern every aspect of life. It all feels stifling now. The idea of stepping out of line, of embracing freedom. It's intoxicating. But there's another part of you that's reluctant to let go. The village, with all its faults and flaws, is still your home. You've lived here your entire life. The people, the traditions, the safety. Can you really throw all of that away? You glance back at the cloaked man, whose quiet confidence somehow makes the choice even harder. You don't have to do this alone, he says softly, his tone more understanding now. There's room for you in this world, a world where we don't have to answer to anyone. No more cheese pits. No more public shaming. Just freedom. His words linger in the air, thick with temptation. You want to ask what that freedom would really mean, but you already know the answer. It would mean chaos. It would mean a world where there are no guarantees, no safety nets, just an endless struggle to carve out a place for yourself. And yet, it sounds so freeing, so different from the world you know, where every action is weighed by someone else's judgment. The thief speaks again, cutting through your thoughts. You've seen what happens to people who play by the rules. They get trampled. They get used. You think the village cares about you? You're just another cog in the wheel. The moment you step out of line, they'll have you branded. Just like they did with us. So why not join us? Be part of something that's bigger than just surviving. His words stir something deep within you. Something you haven't let yourself think about before. Survival, that's all this has ever been about, hasn't it? A daily grind. A routine. A cycle that never ends. You follow the rules, you keep your head down, and you survive. But is that really living? You glance at the barn again, the place that now feels like the heart of this strange rebellion. The cheese, the stolen goods, the plans, they're all more than just a legal trade, they're a symbol, a sign of defiance. You can feel it in your bones now. The people behind this operation aren't just trying to steal cheese. They're trying to steal freedom. The freedom to live outside the system, to break free from the constant surveillance and control of the village. You look back at the cloaked man, his gaze steady. What happens if I walk away? You ask quietly, unsure of the answer but needing to hear it nonetheless. The cloaked man doesn't flinch. If you walk away, the world will keep turning, but nothing will change. You'll go back to your life, your ordinary existence. The same grind, the same rules. You'll pretend like everything's fine, but deep down, you'll know that you are just another pawn in the game. The thief nods in agreement, and the next time someone takes a piece of cheese from the Lord's stores, you'll be watching. You'll remember this moment and wonder why you didn't choose differently. You feel the sting of their words. It's true, isn't it? You can't unsee what you've seen. The cracks in the system, the hypocrisy, the way the powerful always find a way to come out on top, no matter what happens. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but it's one you can't ignore. The choice is suddenly clear. You know what you have to do. With a deep breath, you straighten up, looking both the thief and the cloaked man in the eye. I'm in, you say. Your voice steady, despite the chaos inside you. I'll join you. The thief grins widely, and the cloaked man nods, a quiet satisfaction in his gaze. Good, the cloaked man says, his voice more commanding now, as if the decision has solidified something. Now, the real work begins. You follow them into the barn, where the stolen crates are stacked neatly, each one filled with wheels of cheese. It's a bizarre scene, like something out of a fever dream. Cheese, the simple staple of life, now the center of a rebellion. They begin to explain their plan, the network they've built, and the way they intend to disrupt the village's system. You listen intently, knowing that the decision you've just made will change everything. You won't be the same person after this. There's no going back now. As the night stretches on, you feel a strange sense of purpose settle in your chest. The weight of the village's laws, the oppressive rules that once governed every part of your life, starts to feel distant. For the first time in a long while, you feel like you have control over your own fate. You're not just a witness anymore. You're part of the story, part of something bigger, and as uncertain as the path ahead might be, you can't help but feel the thrill of stepping into the unknown. The world you once knew is fading behind you, and ahead lies a world where freedom is carved out by those willing to take it. And with that thought, you know that there's no turning back. The next few days blur together in a whirlwind of strange and exciting new beginnings. You've joined the thieves, well, the rebels, and now, it feels like the whole village is a distant memory, a faded painting hanging in the back of your mind. The familiar cobblestone streets, the market square, where you once bought your bread, the faces of neighbors you've known your whole life. They all seem so far away now. It's almost like you've stepped into a different world. one that's not governed by rules and punishments, but by a sense of purpose that comes from stepping outside the system. The barn where the thieves operate has become your new base of operations. The place is a strange mixture of clutter and efficiency. Wooden crates are stacked in neat piles, each one filled with cheese, while in another corner, barrels of salted meat sit alongside crates of grain and sacks of dried herbs. The barn is dark but warm, the scent of cheese and fresh bread mixing with the smell of damp wood. It's not the most glamorous place, but it's alive with activity, and for the first time, you feel like you're part of something. You quickly learn that this network is more organized than you could have imagined. It's not just about stealing cheese and selling it on the black market. No, it's about dismantling the very foundation of the village's power structure. The village council, the lord who controls the land, the punishments for every small misstep, all of it is part of the system they're trying to break down. They're not just rebels, they're revolutionaries, and as unsettling as that sounds, it excites you. It feels like you're on the edge of something monumental, but it's also terrifying. Every day, you're reminded that you're living outside the law now. There are no guarantees, no safety nets, and no turning back. One wrong move, one slip-up, and the entire operation could collapse. It's a risk you're willing to take, for freedom, for control, for the chance to live without fear of punishment. But it doesn't make it any less dangerous. The thief, the one who first smirked at you, becomes your closest ally in this new world. He's the one who shows you the ropes, teaches you how the operation works, and introduces you to the others in the group. There's the muscle, a burly man with a scar across his cheek, who's responsible for making sure no one messes with the operation. Then there's the quiet one, a woman who's always reading and taking notes, a strategist who thinks 10 steps ahead. And there's the old man, who acts as the group's moral compass, reminding everyone of why they're doing this in the first place. Together, they form a tight-knit team, and you start to feel like you're truly part of something. The work is grueling, loading and unloading crates, organizing shipments, making deals with traders. But there's a certain thrill to it. It feels like you're building something bigger than yourself. It's hard work, and it's dangerous, but it's real. You're not just surviving anymore, you're living. One night, after a particularly long day, you sit with the thieves around a small fire in the center of the barn. The fire crackles and pops, casting dancing shadows on the walls, and the smell of roasting meat fills the air. The group sits in silence for a moment, each person lost in their thoughts. You find yourself staring into the flames, the flickering light reflecting off the faces of your companions. You know, the thief who first brought you into this group says, breaking the silence, "We're not just doing this for ourselves. We're doing this for everyone out there who's too afraid to stand up, for all the people who have to bow to the village's laws, who are crushed by the weight of the system." You look at him, a strange sense of camaraderie stirring in your chest. It's true, isn't it? All those years you spent just following the rules, never questioning them, never thinking about who the rules really served. Now, you're part of something that's trying to change it all. We've got the chance to start something new. He continues, his voice low but filled with conviction. This isn't just about cheese. It's about taking back control. It's about making sure people know they don't have to live in fear of the law. They don't have to be controlled by it. We're not just stealing from the rich, we're taking back what's ours, and we'll make sure the village knows it. The fire crackles again, and for a moment, you feel like you're part of a movement that's bigger than any one person. A movement that could change everything. But then, in the quiet of the night, you hear a noise. A distant sound, like the pounding of hooves. Your blood runs cold as you listen more carefully. The sound grows louder, closer, and then, through the open door of the barn, you see it. A figure on horseback, riding straight toward the barn. Your heart skips a beat. You know who this is. It's the village constable, the one who's always been quick to enforce the law, the one who helped carry out the punishments, the one who has been watching everything you've been doing. Panic surges through you. The entire operation could be exposed if he finds you. You exchange quick glances with the thief, and without a word, you spring into action. The others follow suit, moving quickly to hide the crates of cheese, to clear the space, to make sure nothing is left out in the open. The door of the barn creaks as it opens, and the constable enters. He's a tall man, his face hard and stern, his eyes scanning the room. You hold your breath, praying he doesn't see through the ruse. Well, the constable says, his voice like a low growl. What do we have here? A little late. Night gathering, huh? The room goes still. You can feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. The thief steps forward, trying to remain calm. Just catching up on some work. Constable, nothing illegal here. The constable eyes him for a moment, then looks around the room. His gaze lingers on the crates, but he doesn't say anything. Finally, he nods, satisfied. I'll let you off for now, he says, his voice dripping with sarcasm. But remember, I'm always watching. With that, he turns and walks out of the barn, the sound of his footsteps fading into the night. The moment the door closes behind him, you let out a breath you didn't realize you were holding. Your heart is still pounding in your chest, the adrenaline coursing through your veins. But it's over. For now. The thief looks at you, his expression hardening. This was close. Too close. He mutters. We can't afford to be this careless again. If he comes back, we're done. You nod. The weight of the near miss sinking in. This life you've chosen isn't just about taking cheese. It's about living on the edge. One wrong move, and everything could come crashing down. But tonight, you're reminded of something else too. The system you've chosen to defy. The laws you're trying to break. They're not just rules. They're traps. And every day you spend here, every day you live outside of them, you're one step closer to breaking free. And yet, as you stare into the fire, you realize that even if you break free, there's no going back. The following days feel like a rush, a whirlwind that you can't quite catch up to. The near encounter with the constable lingers in your mind, but it fades into the background as you're pulled deeper into this underground world. There's no turning back now, not after what you've seen and done. Each day brings with it a new set of risks, new strategies to avoid the watchful eyes of the village and the Lord. The rebellion is growing, its plans expanding, and you're in the thick of it. The barn, once just a humble place of work, has become a base of operations, a small hub of resistance. Each night, after the day's tasks are done, the thieves gather in secret, plotting the next phase of their plan. They're not just smuggling cheese now, they're plotting to overthrow the very foundations of the village's power. The stakes are higher than you ever imagined. And the deeper you go, the more it feels like the walls are closing in around you. You're beginning to understand the pull of it all, the power that comes with being part of something bigger than yourself. It's intoxicating. The idea that you're not just a bystander anymore, that you're actively shaping the future, is a feeling you never knew you needed. The other thieves, the ones who've been doing this for years, seem to thrive on it. They don't just want the world to change, they want to burn it down and build something new from the ashes. It's an unsettling feeling, but one you can't quite shake. One evening, as you sit by the fire in the barn, you notice something different in the air. The usual chatter and laughter are missing. The thieves are gathered, but there's a tension hanging over the group that wasn't there before. You glance around, trying to understand what's going on. The thief who has become your closest ally is pacing, his usual smirk replaced by a hard, grim expression. He stops in front of the group and looks at everyone. We've got a problem, he says, his voice low and dangerous. The Lord's men have been sniffing around the outskirts. They're getting too close to the truth. The room goes quiet, the fire crackling in the background. Everyone is listening intently now, their faces hardening. You feel the weight of the words as they sink in. They know we're moving something, he continues. They don't know what yet, but they'll figure it out soon enough. We can't afford to wait any longer. We need to move fast before they can get us cornered. There's a murmur of agreement among the thieves, but the strategist woman, the one who always seems to have a plan, speaks up. We need to act before they act, she says. But we can't rush this. If we do, we'll make a mistake. And mistakes are what get us caught. You listen to their debate, your heart pounding. The tension in the barn is palpable. They're not just talking about stealing a few wheels of cheese anymore. This has escalated beyond that. They're talking about a rebellion, about taking down a power structure that has existed for generations. The risks are enormous, and the consequences of failure are unimaginable. You exchange a glance with the thief who brought you into this world. He meets your gaze, his eyes hard. You knew what this would be, he says, his voice quieter now. This is it. This is the moment. And just like that, it hits you. This is the turning point. The decision you make now, the role you play in this, will decide everything. The risk isn't just about getting caught. It's about what comes after. It's about the world you're trying to create. Or destroy. Later that night, after the others have gone to bed, you find yourself alone, standing outside the barn, staring up at the moonlit sky. The chill of the evening air bites at your skin, but you welcome it, needing the clarity it brings. You feel a strange mix of fear and exhilaration, and for the first time, you understand what it truly means to take control of your fate. The rebellion isn't just about taking down the Lord or the council. It's about everything. It's about rewriting the rules of society. It's about a world where power isn't held by the elite, but by those who are willing to take it. You've stepped into something bigger than yourself, and there's no going back. But what if this is all wrong? What if in the pursuit of freedom, you've opened a door to something darker? The words of the thief echo in your mind. The system doesn't protect the people, it controls them. But does dismantling the system really solve anything? Or does it just create a new set of problems? A new set of people fighting for power? You take a deep breath, trying to shake the doubts. The world is never as simple as it seems, and perhaps that's the lesson you're learning now. It's not about good or bad, right or wrong. It's about what you're willing to fight for and what you're willing to sacrifice. The next morning, the plan is set in motion. The thief leads the group, and you're with them every step of the way. You've been part of the smaller jobs, the ones that were relatively simple, but this is different. This time, you're moving everything. Cheese, supplies, even people. This is the moment they've all been waiting for, and you're right in the middle of it. The first stage of the plan goes smoothly, too smoothly. The guards are distracted, and the night is dark, but just as the crates are loaded onto the wagons, you hear something you weren't expecting. The sound of hooves. The constable's men, riding in full force, are coming down the road, their torches lighting up the night. You freeze. There's no time to hide now. The rebellion is about to go from a quiet underground movement to an all-out confrontation. The thief's face goes hard. He looks at you, and in that moment you know exactly what he's thinking. This is it. The final test. The rebellion, the dream of freedom. It's all happening right here, right now. The fire inside you burns brighter. There's no running now, no more hiding. With a deep breath, you grab a sword from the weapon stash, feeling the weight of it in your hand. It's not just about cheese anymore. It's about survival, freedom, and rewriting the rules. As the first of the Lord's men ride into view, you prepare to fight, knowing that this moment will decide everything. The battle is fierce and chaotic. The clashing of swords, the cries of the rebels, the thundering hooves of the constable's men, everything blurs together. But in the heat of it, you feel alive. Every move, every decision feels weighty, like it could change the course of history. And as you stand there, fighting for the world you're trying to create, you realize that this is what you've been searching for all along. The chance to carve out a place for yourself, to be part of something bigger than the rules that once controlled you. In the end, there's only one question left. What kind of world will you help build from the ashes? The battle rages on, the clash of steel against steel reverberating through the night, louder than the crackle of the nearby fire. The constable's men, well trained and organized, charge forward, their torches lighting up the scene with a harsh, flickering glow. But the rebels, fueled by years of oppression and injustice, meet them head on with a defiance that can only come from the brink of desperation. You fight with everything you've got, adrenaline coursing through your veins. Your heart pounds like a war drum, and each swing of your sword feels like a strike against everything you've ever known. Against the system that held you down, against the village that watched silently as the law reigned supreme. Each movement is an act of liberation. You can feel it in your bones. This is the moment of truth. The thief, the one who brought you into this world, is by your side, fighting with a wild, unrestrained fury. His every strike is filled with purpose, with the fire of someone who has spent their whole life just waiting for the chance to strike back. His eyes never leave his target. The constable's men, the ones who represent everything that has kept people like him in line. He's not just fighting for freedom, he's fighting for a future, for something better than the life he was forced to lead. But as the minutes pass, you realize this isn't just a battle for freedom. It's a battle for survival. The constable's men aren't backing down. They're relentless, pushing forward with the full weight of the law behind them. The rebels, despite their courage and determination, are beginning to feel the pressure. The strategist woman shouts orders from behind, coordinating the retreat, but the rebellion isn't ready to back down yet. There's a fire in the air now, the scent of burning wood, the heat of battle rising. You glance over to the barn, the heart of the operation, and see that it's already being set alight. The flames licking up toward the sky, casting long, jagged shadows across the battlefield. The thief, breathless from the fight, looks over at you and catches your eye. His face is streaked with sweat and dirt, but there's something in his gaze, something that tells you he's seeing the end of this battle. Maybe he knows this will be the turning point. No matter which way it goes, we fight for the future. He yells over the din, his voice sharp and urgent. But this isn't just about us anymore. It's about everyone who's lived in fear. everyone who's had their lives dictated by the law. This is bigger than all of us. His words hit you with a deep force, and for a moment you feel the full weight of what you've chosen to be part of. It's not just about a rebellion anymore. It's about creating a world where people are no longer bound by the chains of an unjust system. The idea is intoxicating, overwhelming, and yet, so fragile. How much longer can this last? How much longer can they fight? The fighting continues. The rebels are outnumbered and outmatched in training, but their resolve is unmatched. You can hear the cry of the wounded, the clash of steel, the calls to retreat. But you don't retreat, not yet. Suddenly, the cloaked man, your original guide into this rebellion, appears in the middle of the chaos, shouting to you from across the field. We need to break through. We have to make it to the forest. It's the only way we can regroup. His face is a mask of determination, but you can see the urgency in his eyes. The rebels are being pushed back. The fight isn't going in their favor, and time is running out. You look around. The fire spreads across the barn, thick black smoke rising into the air. The rebels are retreating, but not in the way they had hoped. This was supposed to be a decisive moment, a breaking point for the old system. Instead, it feels like everything is slipping away. The dream of freedom, the rebellion, it all seems so close, and yet so fragile. Without thinking, you push forward, running toward the cloaked man. You need to make a choice. The village, the Lord, the laws, they're all a part of this. They're what you're fighting against, but they're also what's keeping everything from collapsing entirely. You reach the cloaked man, breathless. What now? You ask, your voice hoarse with the effort. We break, he says simply, his voice steady. We have to split. You and the others, head for the forest. The rest of us will stay and hold the line as long as we can. You glance around. The fight is still raging, but the rebels are being pushed back toward the edge of the village. You know the retreat is inevitable. I'm not leaving, you say, defiance in your voice. I'm staying. The cloaked man's gaze hardens. You think this is some noble fight, some revolution for the people. This is war. You're not fighting for the future. You're fighting for your survival. And if you don't survive, none of this matters. You meet his gaze, your eyes unwavering. I'm not running. For a long moment, he says, nothing, just watches you with something that looks almost like approval in his eyes. Finally, he nods. Then make sure this doesn't end tonight. Make sure this fight means something. And just like that, the decision is made. There's no turning back. The battle rages into the night, but the air is thick with the scent of smoke and blood. The constable's men continue their relentless pursuit, pushing the rebels to their breaking point. The once strong, defiant forces of the rebellion are now scattered, disorganized, desperate. You fight on. Not because you know you'll win, but because you know you can't lose. Not now. Suddenly, a shout rings out. One you recognize. The thief, your ally, is down. He's surrounded by the constable's men, struggling to break free. Without thinking, you rush toward him, pushing past bodies, ignoring the pain in your muscles, the exhaustion in your bones. You reach him just as the constable's men close in. Without hesitation, you swing your sword, knocking one of them back. Another lunges at you, but you block the strike with your sword, feeling the weight of the battle pressing in on you. You don't stop. You can't stop. Not when your ally, the one who brought you into this world, needs you. The fight is brutal, but in the end, you manage to break through. The thief, though battered and bruised, is alive. You pull him up, dragging him toward the woods, the last escape route. The fire that once seemed so far away now threatens to consume everything. The barn, the plan, the dream of the rebellion, they're all lost in the chaos of the battle. But you've survived. And as you look back one last time at the village, now engulfed in flames, you realize something. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning. You don't know what the future holds. The rebellion has been beaten, scattered, and left in ruins. But as you disappear into the darkness of the forest, with the thief by your side, you understand one thing. Nothing is ever truly over. The fight isn't just for the world you hope to create. It's for the people who are still out there, waiting for their chance, and you won't stop until that chance comes. The forest is quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves underfoot, and the distant echoes of battle still raging behind you. The flames of the burning village are a distant memory now, their glow just a faint outline against the dark sky. You move swiftly through the trees, the weight of what just happened hanging over you. The thief, who you dragged through the chaos of the battle, is still with you, though he stumbles. Clearly exhausted and wounded. You pull him along, your mind racing. You've escaped, But at what cost? The rebellion, everything you fought for, has crumbled. The village lies in ruins, the dream of freedom seemingly dashed, and yet as the two of you trudge through the woods, there's a part of you that feels something else, something almost like hope. You glance at the thief beside you, his face set in grim lines, his movements slow and labored. The once confident rebel is no longer the smirking, defiant figure he was just days ago. The fire in his eyes has dimmed, and for the first time, you see the exhaustion, the weight of failure settling in. Do you think it was worth it? You ask, your voice low, barely a whisper among the trees. He looks at you, his expression unreadable. The question lingers in the air between you like smoke. Worth what? He asks, his voice raw, tinged with bitterness. What we did, the rebellion, the dream. You nod, but the thief shakes his head, his shoulders sagging under the weight of the loss. I don't know, he mutters. Maybe, maybe not. I thought it was for something bigger, but now it just feels like we tore everything apart, and for what? The words hang in the air, and for the first time, you start to question the motives behind everything you've done. The rebellion, the fight for freedom, the dreams of a new world. All of it seems so distant now. Was it worth the cost? Was the fire, the bloodshed, the destruction, worth the fleeting chance at something better? The forest around you is silent, almost like it's holding its breath, waiting for an answer that neither of you has. You find a small clearing in the forest, a quiet spot where the trees are dense enough to shield you from prying eyes. The thief slumps down against a tree, breathing heavily. You sit beside him, your mind still whirling. The world feels different now. The rebellion is gone, the village is lost, and you can't help but wonder what comes next. You've been running, hiding, fighting for something you barely understand, but in the stillness of the forest, it hits you. You don't know what you're fighting for anymore. You glance over at the thief. His eyes are closed, but you can see the weariness in his posture. He's no longer the fearless leader of a rebellion. He's just a man struggling to survive like everyone else. We'll rebuild, he says, his voice low but determined, as though trying to convince himself as much as you. We'll find a way. We've got the forest, the people, we've got everything we need. It's not over. His words are a weak attempt to rally himself, but they ring hollow. You both know that the rebellion, as it was, is finished. The village, the lord, the system, they've all crushed it. You're on your own now. As the hours pass, the fire from the battle fades away into the night. You can hear the distant sounds of the forest, an owl hooting in the distance, the rustling of small animals in the underbrush. The calmness is almost unsettling, like the world is holding its breath, waiting to see what happens next. You rest your head against the tree, your eyes scanning the dark horizon. In this quiet, you begin to reflect on everything. The rebellion, the fight, the people you've met, and the ones you've lost. It wasn't just about cheese, was it? It was about freedom. But now that the fight's over, what does that freedom really mean? You thought you were fighting for something bigger, for a world where people could live without fear of punishment, where the laws weren't just a tool for the powerful to control the weak. But in the end, all you have are questions. Was this really the way? Was this the best you could do? The thief stirs beside you, his voice breaking through your thoughts. You're thinking about it, aren't you? He says quietly. What we lost, what we didn't get to finish. You don't answer at first, unsure of what to say, but he doesn't wait for your response. Yeah, I get it, he mutters, but we can't change what happened. All we can do now is pick up the pieces. You finally look at him, meeting his gaze. For a moment you wonder if this is the end. Maybe you've both failed. Maybe the dream of a new world was always too impossible to grasp. But then the thief shifts, his eyes hardening with resolve. We'll find a way, he repeats, more to himself than to you. We'll find the ones who are still out there, the ones who still believe in the cause, and we'll start again. You nod slowly. It doesn't feel like much, but it's the only thing left, a new beginning, a second chance. And as the fire from the village slowly fades into the distance, you realize that maybe that's all anyone ever gets, a chance to try again, to rebuild, to make things right, even when the odds are stacked against you. The forest is dark, the air cool against your skin, and the future is uncertain. But in this quiet moment, you find a spark of hope. Maybe you haven't lost everything. Maybe, just maybe, you can still change the world. For now though, you wait. The road ahead is long and it's unclear where it will lead, but you know one thing for certain. You're not done yet. The fight is still out there, and even if it's just you and a handful of rebels left, you'll keep going, because that's what freedom is. isn't it? It's the will to keep moving forward, no matter how difficult the journey may be. The days blur together as you and the thief navigate through the forest, making your way deeper into unknown territory. There's no map, no guide, only the quiet resolve that fills the air between you. The forest has become your refuge, but also your prison. It's a place of survival, where each day is a struggle to find food, water, and shelter. It's not the grand revolution you once dreamed of. It's raw, stripped down, and real. You've found a small group of stragglers, other rebels, survivors of the failed uprising who are scattered and disheartened. They've heard of you, heard of the fight, and they're willing to join your cause again. But this time, there's no grand speech, no lofty ideals. There's just a shared understanding. The battle has changed. It's no longer about taking down the village council or overthrowing the lord. Now, it's just about surviving, regrouping, and finding a way to rebuild from the ashes. The thief, the one who once led you into this world of rebellion, has become more introspective. The fire in his eyes has dimmed, but he's still here, still leading, still holding on to the spark of something. He's organizing the small group, moving them from place to place, always keeping to the shadows, always one step ahead of the constable's men. You've learned to trust him, perhaps more than anyone else, but you can see the weight of failure settling on his shoulders. Each day, the rebellion becomes more about survival than anything else. Food is scarce. The nights are cold. And while the forest offers some refuge, it's clear that there's no way to hide forever. The constable's men will come for you eventually. And when they do, what then? One evening, as the fire flickers low and the rest of the survivors sleep in the makeshift camp, you sit apart from the group, your thoughts swirling. The thief approaches, his face worn and tired, but his eyes still sharp. He sits next to you, the silence stretching between you for a moment. Do you ever wonder if it was all worth it? He asks suddenly, his voice quieter than usual. It's the first time he's voiced the doubts that have been creeping in his mind, and for a moment, you just look at him, unsure of how to answer. Worth it? You ask, unsure of whether you mean the rebellion, the fight, or everything that has led to this point. Yeah, he mutters, running a hand through his hair. I mean, I thought we were changing the world. I thought we were going to make a difference, but now it just feels like we're running, hiding, hoping we don't get caught. You nod slowly, understanding more than you care to admit. You felt it too, the sense of futility that has started to settle over the group. Every move you make is cautious, every step taken with the knowledge that there's no real plan, no clear end goal. It's just survival. The revolution, the dream of freedom, it's been replaced by something much simpler, making it through another day. Do you think it's over? You ask, your voice barely a whisper. It feels like a rhetorical question, like you already know the answer, but you need to hear it anyway. The thief doesn't answer immediately. He stares into the fire, the flickering flames reflecting in his eyes. Then, he speaks, his voice distant, almost resigned. I think we're all just waiting for the next thing to happen. We can't go back to the village. We can't go back to the old ways. But we're not exactly fighting anymore, either. It's not a revolution now, it's just a fight for survival. He pauses, his words hanging in the air between you like smoke. I used to believe in the cause, I used to think it was worth it, but now, I don't know anymore. I don't know what I believe. There's a quiet ache in your chest as you listen to him. It's not just the weight of what's happened, but the reality of what lies ahead. The rebellion is fractured, scattered like the pieces of a shattered dream. The idealism that once filled your heart now feels naïve. You thought you were fighting for freedom, for something grand and noble. But what you've learned is that freedom is messy, unpredictable, and often harder to grasp than you ever imagined. You look over at the others, those few who remain loyal, who still believe in the cause, who still hold on to the idea that this isn't the end. They sleep huddled together, exhausted but still hopeful, and you wonder how long that hope will last. How long before the reality of their situation finally sinks in. Maybe we don't need to change the world. You say quietly, more to yourself than to him. Maybe we just need to survive long enough to make something better. Maybe that's all we can do now. The thief looks at you, his expression unreadable, and for a moment you think he might disagree. But instead, he nods slowly. Maybe you're right, he says quietly. Maybe we start small. We start with us. And then, maybe, just maybe, we can rebuild one step at a time. The days turn into weeks, and as the weather grows colder, the rebel group grows smaller. The woods are no longer a sanctuary. The constable's men are hunting, and the pressure of being constantly on the move is beginning to wear everyone down. The thief, the last person you thought would waver, has become quieter. His once bright spark of rebellion has dimmed, replaced by a deep exhaustion that runs through the entire group. But despite everything, there's still something in you that refuses to give up. You've seen too much, lost too much, and in some strange way, you still believe that it's possible to change things. Even if the world is broken, even if everything you thought was real has been torn apart, there's still a small part of you that clings to the idea that it's not over yet. You find yourself waking up each morning, pushing forward, despite the weight of everything pressing down on you. You don't know what the future holds, but you know one thing for sure. You'll keep fighting, because that's what you have left. Hope, no matter how small, is still worth fighting for. Days blur together in the wilderness. The group is weakening, but you've managed to keep the spirit of the rebellion alive. Just barely. The future is uncertain, the road ahead long and unclear, but in this moment as you sit in the quiet of the forest, you know that the fight is not over. Not yet. You look around at the faces of your companions. Their eyes are tired, their bodies worn, but there's still a fire in them. Even if it's small, it might be dying, but it's still there. And as long as it's there, you know that you'll keep fighting. You'll keep moving forward, no matter how long the road is. Because this isn't just about fighting for freedom anymore. It's about surviving long enough to make something new, something better, and you'll keep fighting until you get there. The days grow colder, and with each passing night, the crackling fire in your small hidden camp is the only thing keeping the chill at bay. You've become accustomed to the constant feeling of unease, the tension that fills every corner of your existence. The world you once knew, the village, the rebellion, it all feels so distant now, like a dream slipping through your fingers. What you're living now is raw. It's the grind of survival, the quiet determination to make it through another day. The thief, who once burned with passion and certainty, is a shadow of the person he used to be. He's still here, still leading, but his heart doesn't seem to be in it anymore. The fire in his eyes has dimmed, replaced by the cold weight of reality. He moves like a man resigned to his fate, making decisions not based on ideals, but on necessity. His leadership is quieter now, less sure, as if he too is waiting for something to give, for something to change. You often find yourself wondering if you've made the right choice in staying with him, with the rebels. What is it all for now? The dream of freedom seems farther away than ever, lost in the cold wilderness, just like the rebellion's spark. But there's something else, something you can't ignore. A part of you still believes that the fight isn't over, that the future can still be shaped. Even if it's just a flicker of hope, it's enough to keep you moving forward. The small group of rebels is down to just a handful now. Some have left, unable to live with the constant fear of being hunted. Others have fallen to the cold, their bodies too weak to survive in the harsh conditions. The ones who remain are the ones who still hold onto the belief that there's a chance to rebuild, to start again. You're not sure how much longer you can keep up the charade. Every step you take feels like a step deeper into a trap. And yet, you continue to walk. Each day is a battle to hold on to the remnants of something that feels like it's slipping through your fingers. The rebellion, the idealism, the fight. It all seems so distant now, so fragile. But there's still something in you, something that refuses to let go. The thief's words echo in your mind. We'll rebuild. Is that even possible? Can you rebuild from nothing? From the ruins of a failed revolution? One night, as you sit beside the fire with the few remaining rebels, you overhear a conversation that catches your attention. It's the strategist woman, the one who always kept a cool head, who's speaking in low tones with the thief. I don't know how much longer we can keep running, she says, her voice tight with worry. The constable's men are getting closer, and the people who were with us are starting to scatter. If we don't do something soon, we'll be finished. The thief looks at her, his eyes tired but still filled with determination. We've got the forest. We've got the people who are still loyal. We just need to stay hidden for a while longer. We'll make our move when the time is right. She shakes her head. We're out of time. We've been hiding long enough. The people aren't going to keep following us. We need to act, or we'll lose everything. You sit back, your heart pounding. What are they talking about? A new plan? A final push? The thought of it sends a ripple of anxiety through you. Can you really fight again? Can the rebellion be revived even now? The thief doesn't answer right away, his gaze distant. Finally, he speaks, his voice low and steady. I know what we need to do, but we can't do it alone. We need help, we need allies. You glance around, noticing that the few remaining rebels have fallen silent, their faces drawn with exhaustion and fear. They're waiting for him, waiting for the decision that will determine what comes next. "I'll reach out," the thief says finally. "We'll find the ones who still believe, but we do it quietly. We need to be smart about this. If we move too fast, we'll make ourselves targets." The strategist nods, but you can see the doubt in her eyes. "How do we know it's not too late?" The thief pauses, the weight of the question settling over him. "I don't know," he says quietly. "But we'll never know unless we try." The next few days are spent in quiet preparation. The thief, despite his weariness, organizes the group into small, discrete units. Some are tasked with scouting, others with gathering supplies. There's a sense of urgency now, a quiet realization that this could be the last chance. You can feel the tension in the air, the sense that everything is on the brink of something, whether that something is victory or defeat. As you work, you can't shake the feeling that you're running out of time. The constable's men are closing in, their patrols becoming more frequent. They're getting better at tracking you, at hunting you down. The pressure is mounting, and you know that the final decision is coming. Do you take the risk? Do you fight once more, even when the odds are stacked against you? The forest, once a sanctuary, now feels like a cage. The trees, which once offered shelter, now seem to trap you in place, with no way out. You can hear the distant sound of the constable's men searching, calling to one another as they scour the area. There's no more hiding, you can't run forever. That night, as the camp falls into an uneasy sleep, you find yourself alone, sitting by the fire, staring into the flames. The crackling sound fills the silence, a constant reminder of the uncertainty surrounding you. The fire, though small, is warm, and its light flickers in the dark. You think about the village, about the rebellion, about the choices you've made. You think about the people you've lost, the friends you've made, and the ideals that once burned so brightly in your chest. You wonder if it was all worth it. If the struggle for freedom and justice was ever really achievable. Was it a dream? Or was it always just a matter of surviving? The fire pops, and you shake your head. You don't have the answers. No one does. But as long as you're still here, still breathing, there's a part of you that holds on to the belief that change is possible. Even if it's small, even if it's just a step forward, no matter how long the road. As the night stretches on, the forest grows quieter, the distant calls of the constable's men fading into the distance. Tomorrow will bring more challenges, more uncertainty, but for now, you allow yourself a brief moment of peace. You know that whatever happens, you'll keep going, you'll keep fighting, because that's all you can do. The forest is quieter than usual the next morning. The air is crisp, with the faintest hint of winter creeping in. You wake up to the sound of birds stirring in the trees, a small reminder that life, in some form, still continues, even amidst the chaos. You blink, trying to shake off the remnants of sleep, but the weight of everything is still there, pressing down on you like a stone in your chest. You rise to your feet and stretch, the stiffness in your limbs a constant reminder of the hard journey you've been on. The fire from last night is a smoldering memory now, and the others are already waking up, packing their things, preparing for the next phase of the rebellion, or what's left of it. The thief, despite his weariness, has assumed a quiet leadership role, organizing the small group of survivors, with the urgency of someone who knows that this may be their last chance to do something. But there's no denying it. The weight of the last few weeks has taken its toll. The constant movement, the fear of discovery, the uncertainty, it's starting to wear everyone down. The hope that once filled the group is now a flicker, barely a glow. The dream of freedom, of change, has turned into a struggle for survival. And you can see it in their eyes. The doubt, the fear, the resignation. But you can't give up, not yet. There's still a part of you that believes in what you fought for, in the idea of a world where people can live without fear of punishment or oppression. Even if that world feels impossibly far away, you have to keep going. The thief calls for a meeting that morning. His voice steady but low, as though even he can't bring himself to sound too confident. The others gather around the fire, the group small but determined. The strategist woman stands beside him, arms crossed, her expression as unreadable as ever. "We're not going to outrun the constable's men." The thief starts, his tone blunt. "We've been on the move for too long, and they're closing in. We can't keep hiding like this." You feel a pang in your chest. The idea of facing them head on, of making a stand, is terrifying. But there's something in his words that resonates. They can't keep running. Sooner or later, the rebellion will have to face its fate. And maybe, just maybe, that time has come. "We need allies," the thief continues. "There are still people out there who believe in what we were fighting for. We've heard rumors of people who still want to rise up, to fight back. We need to find them. We need to make contact, and we need to organize, but we have to move fast. The group listens quietly, some of them nodding in agreement, while others just look exhausted, too tired to offer any real opposition. The constant uncertainty is beginning to take its toll, and you can feel the weight of it pressing down on everyone. The thief pauses, letting his words sink in. I know it feels like it's over. I know we've lost a lot. But we're not done yet. We still have each other, and as long as we're still breathing, we've got a chance. The fire crackles, the only sound in the clearing as you all sit in silence, contemplating his words. The decision is made, whether it's the right one or not. You'll have to find out. You can't hide forever. The question now is, what happens when you can't run anymore? That afternoon, the group moves out. The thief leads the way, his eyes scanning the forest as he walks, as though he's expecting the constable's men to appear at any moment. The others follow, the small group moving quietly through the woods, each person lost in their thoughts, wondering what's next. The day passes without incident, but the tension never fades. You reach the edge of the forest just as the sun begins to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The sight is beautiful, almost surreal, and for a moment, you allow yourself to be distracted, to forget about the constant fear of being hunted. But the moment doesn't last long. The thief looks back at you, his gaze sharp. We're close, he says quietly. Stay alert. And just like that, the weight of reality crashes back in. You're not out of danger yet. You never will be. Night falls quickly, the darkness swallowing the path ahead. The group sets up camp, using the cover of the trees to shield themselves. You can't help but feel like you're being watched, like the forest itself is closing in on you. The fire crackles in the center of the camp, its glow casting long shadows across the faces of your companions. The strategist woman, who's always been the voice of reason, pulls the thief aside, her tone urgent as she speaks to him in low, hushed words. You can't hear the details, but you can see the concern in her posture. The thief nods, his face hardening, and for a brief moment, you wonder if they're making plans for something you're not aware of. The night wears on, and you find yourself sitting by the fire staring into the flames, your thoughts once again turning inward. The rebellion is slipping through your fingers. The dream of a better world is fading, and you can feel it. The weight of failure hangs in the air, and you wonder if it's time to face the truth. Is there any way to save what's left, or is it time to let go? The thief joins you by the fire later, sitting down with a heavy sigh. You don't say anything at first, not sure what to say, but eventually, the silence breaks. We can't keep living like this, he says, his voice soft, almost defeated. I thought we could. I thought we could change things. But now, I don't know. His words hit you harder than you expect. It's as if all the weight of the last few months has come crashing down on him, and he's finally letting it out. You look at him, unsure of what to say. What can you say? We're still here, you say quietly, trying to offer some form of comfort. We're not done yet. We've still got a chance. He nods, though it's clear he doesn't fully believe it. Maybe, he mutters, but I don't know how much longer we can keep pretending. The fire crackles, the sound almost comforting, but in the stillness of the night, you can feel the tension rising. The rebellion, the dream. It's all hanging by a thread, and you're not sure if it's strong enough to hold on. The night passes in uneasy silence. The group is quieter now, as though the weight of what's to come is starting to settle over everyone. You don't know what the future holds, but one thing is certain. The rebellion has changed. It's no longer the fire it once was. It's a small, flickering light, struggling to survive in the darkness. But even so, as the fire fades into embers and the world around you grows still, there's a part of you that refuses to let go. Maybe the dream isn't dead. Maybe it's just waiting for the right moment to ignite again. But for now, all you can do is wait and see. The days seem to blend into one another now. The edges of time blur as you move through the forest, from one small hideout to the next, never staying in one place for too long. The sounds of the rebellion, the shouts, the rush of energy, the feeling of something bigger than yourself, are slowly becoming memories. You try to cling to those memories, but they're fading, just like the faces of the people who once stood by you. Some have scattered, some have fallen, and some just gave up. But you can't give up, not yet. The thief, despite the exhaustion that weighs on him, keeps pushing the group forward, just as he always has. But you see it in his eyes. He's tired, more tired than anyone. His once clear vision of what the rebellion could be has become clouded. The fire he once had seems to have dimmed, and you wonder if the battle has finally worn him down. It's hard to tell, because his leadership still holds. But you sense that something inside of him has shifted. It's no longer about the grand fight. It's about surviving. It's about getting through each day just a little bit longer. One evening, after a long day of travel, you sit by the fire with him. The rest of the group scattered around, lost in their own thoughts. The cold winds of winter are starting to creep in, and the forest around you seems even darker than before. Do you ever think about what we've lost? The thief asks, his voice low and distant. He's staring into the fire, his face illuminated by its flickering glow, but there's something far away in his expression. You don't answer right away. The question is too heavy, too real. You think about all the people you've met, all the faces you've lost, the hopes that once seemed so strong and alive. You think about the rebellion, and how quickly it all crumbled. It's hard to imagine that it was ever something worth fighting for, now that it feels like nothing more than a shadow of what it was. What happened to us? He asks again, his voice cracking slightly. You look at him, seeing the weight of it all in his eyes. The rebellion, the dream. It's all starting to feel like a distant story, a fairy tale. But you know you can't stop. Not now. Not when there's still a glimmer of hope left. We're still here, you say, your voice steady, though you feel the crack in your own heart. We're not done yet. Not completely. He turns to face you, his expression softening just a little. I don't know, he admits, his voice tired. I keep hoping we'll get something back, some sense of purpose, but sometimes it feels like we're just running in circles. The world hasn't changed. It's just harder now. You nod, understanding what he means. It's true. Everything is harder now. The fights you've won seem so small compared to the enormity of what's ahead. The village is lost. The Lord is still in power. The constable's men continue to hunt down anyone who dares to oppose the system, and all you've got now are the remnants of a rebellion that seems like a dream slipping away. But there's something in you that refuses to let it go. The fire, no matter how dim, is still there. Maybe it's not about winning anymore. Maybe it's just about making sure that you keep fighting, even when it feels like it's all falling apart. The next morning, you're on the move again, heading deeper into the woods. The others are quiet, more subdued than usual. The constant worry of being hunted hangs over everyone. It's exhausting, mentally and physically. But you keep moving, following the thief's lead, because what else is there to do? The road behind you is closed. The past is gone. There's no going back now. After a few days of traveling, you come across a small village, a place you didn't know existed. It's tucked away, almost hidden in the folds of the land, the kind of place where people who want to stay off the radar can go. It's quiet here. The villagers don't seem to care about the outside world, about the rebellion, about the Lord's rule. They keep to themselves. And for the first time in what feels like forever, you wonder if it's time to lay low, to rest, to stop running. The thief seems to think so too. He's cautious but intrigued. The group is hesitant at first, unsure of whether they should trust the strangers in this village, but the thief makes the call. You'll stay for a while, lay low, regroup. The villagers are kind, though wary. They offer food, shelter, and even a few coins in exchange for work. There's something peaceful about the way they live. They seem content with their quiet lives, untouched by the chaos of the world outside. But there's an undercurrent of sadness too. You can sense it in their eyes, the way they avoid certain subjects, the way their smiles never quite reach their eyes. They're hiding something. They're not as free as they appear. Days pass, and the group begins to settle into this new life. It's not much, but it's enough for now. You find yourself working alongside the villagers, helping them with daily tasks, fixing fences, mending tools. The work is simple, but it's a distraction. It gives you something to focus on other than the endless worry of being hunted. But even in the quiet of this village, you can't shake the feeling that something is off. The villagers are kind, but they've been through something. They've seen what the world can do to those who step out of line. One evening, as you sit by the fire with the thief, he looks at you, his face serious. I think we've found a place to rest, he says quietly, for now at least. You meet his gaze, and for a moment, you wonder if he's finally found peace, or if this is just another illusion, a temporary reprieve before the storm comes again. We'll keep fighting, won't we? You ask, though you already know the answer. He nods slowly, his face hardening once again. We have to. As long as there's breath in us, we'll keep going, even if we're the only ones left. You sit in silence for a while, the fire crackling between you. The world beyond this village, the rebellion, the people you once fought for, All of it feels distant now. But you can't help but wonder if there's still a chance. Even in this small hidden village, in this quiet place where you found temporary peace, you know one thing: you can't stop fighting. Not yet. The fire burns low, the embers glowing softly in the dark, and you close your eyes, knowing that the road ahead is still long. But for now, you've found a moment of respite. Tomorrow, you'll move forward. The fight isn't over. Not yet. Days in the village continue to pass quietly, the rhythm of life here a strange contrast to the chaos of the rebellion. For the first time in what feels like forever, the constant fear of being hunted recedes into the background. You wake up each morning to the sound of birdsong, to the warmth of a modest fire, to the simple tasks of village life. The villagers offer you kindness, but there's always that lingering sense of something unspoken. They've seen the world outside their small community, seen what the powerful can do to those who rebel, to those who dare to defy the system. They might have turned inward, but they know the cost of defiance. And yet, despite the peace here, a part of you feels restless. There's something in the pit of your stomach, a gnawing sensation that reminds you that this is just a brief respite. The rebellion, the dream of freedom, hasn't truly ended. It can't. Not while there are still people out there, people like you, who want change. And while the village offers a temporary escape, you know you can't stay here forever. The thief, who has become more reserved in recent days, seems to feel it too. There are moments when his eyes grow distant, when the weight of leadership, of failure, presses down on him. But he doesn't say anything. He just keeps going, leading the group with a quiet determination, the same determination that's kept him going through everything. It's the first morning in the village that you see a change. The thief approaches you as you're helping some of the villagers mend a fence. His face is hard, his voice more serious than usual. "We need to talk," he says quietly, pulling you aside. You follow him, your heart quickening. "What's going on? Is something about to change again?" "Aunts," you're out of earshot from the others. He looks around to make sure no one is listening, then meets your gaze. "I think we've overstayed our welcome," he says, his voice low but firm. The villagers are kind, but they don't ask questions. They don't know who we really are, but they've seen enough of the world to know we're not like them. And that's dangerous. If we stay here too long, we risk exposing everything. You feel the weight of his words. He's right, of course. The longer you stay in this village, the more likely it is that someone somewhere will begin asking questions. And once those questions are asked, there will be no going back. The constable's men will be on you before you even have a chance to flee. "What do you want to do?" you ask, already knowing the answer. The thief looks at you, his face tight with the burden of leadership. "We leave tonight. We find a new place to regroup, away from prying eyes. We find the others who still believe in what we were fighting for, but we can't stay here." You nod, understanding that this is the only way. The rebellion hasn't been extinguished. It's just hiding, waiting for the right moment. You can't let the fire go out completely, not when there's still a chance. There are still people out there, people who want change, and you have to keep looking for them. You have to keep fighting, even if it feels like the world is turning its back on you. That night, as the village sleeps, you and the others begin to pack up. You leave no trace. No evidence that you were ever here. You don't know where you'll go, but it doesn't matter. All that matters is that you're moving again. The rebellion, the cause, it's still alive. It's not over, not yet. The next few days are filled with tension. You travel under the cover of darkness, keeping to the shadows as much as possible. The forest around you is familiar, but this time, it feels different. The weight of what you're running from, what you're running toward, is heavy in the air. The thief doesn't speak much, his steps steady but slower than usual. You can see the strain in his face, the weariness that comes from carrying the weight of everything on his shoulders. But despite everything, there's still a fire in him. You see it in the way he holds his head up, the way he keeps pushing forward, even when it seems like there's nothing left. He's determined, and that determination is contagious. You find yourself pushing harder, moving faster, the sense of urgency driving you onward. By the time you reach the edge of another village, you can feel the exhaustion in your bones. You haven't stopped since you left the first village, and the constant pressure is starting to wear everyone down. But there's a spark of hope too, a sense that something is about to change. Maybe this is the moment the rebellion has been waiting for. Maybe this is the turning point. You don't know what to expect when you reach this village. You don't know if the people here will welcome you with open arms or if they'll turn you away. But you're willing to take that risk. The rebellion can't survive on the fringes forever. It needs people. It needs allies. The village is small, tucked away in a valley between two hills. It's quiet, almost too quiet as you approach. The houses are scattered, the roofs thatched, the streets narrow and winding. You wonder how much the people here know about the world beyond their village. Do they know about the Lord, the constable's men, the rebellion? The thief leads the group toward the center of the village, his expression guarded. You follow, your heart racing. You're not sure what you're hoping for, but you know that this village is your last chance. If they turn you away, it's over. The rebellion will have no place left to hide. You'll be out of options. But as you reach the heart of the village, you see something unexpected. People who are willing to talk, willing to listen. They gather around, drawn by the arrival of strangers, and the thief steps forward, speaking in a voice that's calm but urgent. "We need your help," he says simply, his eyes scanning the crowd. "We've been fighting for a future where no one lives in fear. But we can't do it alone. We need your help." For a moment, there's silence. The villagers exchange glances, unsure of what to make of these strangers. You can feel the tension in the air, but you also feel something else, the spark of hope. You're not alone anymore. Maybe the fight isn't over after all. Then, one of the villagers steps forward. A man, older than the others, with a weathered face and eyes that have seen too much. He looks at the thief for a long moment before speaking. "We've heard the stories," he says, his voice quiet but firm. "You're not the only ones who want change, and we're not the only ones who are willing to fight for it. The rebellion lives. It's not dead. It's just waiting for the right moment to rise again." And this, you realize, is that moment. The air is thick with anticipation as you stand in the heart of the village, surrounded by people whose faces are full of uncertainty and curiosity. The wind whispers through the trees, carrying the scent of earth and pine, as if the forest itself is holding its breath. The villagers, those few who dared step forward, stand quietly, waiting for something, anything, that will tell them if this rebellion is just another broken dream or something worth believing in. The thief stands at the forefront, his posture straight, his voice steady, but you can see it in his eyes. The exhaustion, the doubt, the questions that are beginning to creep in. For all the fire he once had, he knows the stakes now. This isn't just about freedom. It's about survival. It's about finding a way to keep going when the world has done everything it can to crush you. "We've lost a lot," the thief says, his voice low but clear. "The fight for freedom. It's never easy, but we're not done yet. We still have a chance." You can feel the weight of his words hanging in the air, heavy and resolute. The rebellion, which once felt like a roaring fire, now seems like a flickering ember. But it's still there, and maybe, just maybe, that ember is enough. "We can't do this alone," he continues. "We need your help. We need you to stand with us together. We can build something better. We can rebuild." You notice the eyes of the villagers flicker between one another, some filled with hesitation, others with a faint spark of recognition. There's fear in their eyes, but there's also something else, a longing for change, for something different. It's a dangerous thing, wanting more than what you have. It's a dangerous thing to speak out, to take a stand when the world is stacked against you. But it's also a necessary thing. The man who had stepped forward earlier, the elder with the weathered face, steps up now, his voice gruff, but clear. "We've seen the world outside our village," he says, his gaze sweeping over the small crowd. "We know what it costs to stand against the law. We know what happens when you challenge the system." He pauses, his eyes meeting yours and the thief's with a kind of silent understanding. "But we also know what happens when you do nothing. We've lived in the shadow of fear long enough. Maybe it's time to step out of that shadow." The words hang in the air, and for a moment there's silence. Then, slowly, a few others step forward. One by one, more villagers come to stand beside the thief, beside you, their faces hardened with the weight of the decision they're making. "We'll help," one of the younger men says, his voice low but resolute. "We'll fight." And just like that, the rebellion has a new chance, a new spark of hope. The next few days are filled with planning. The villagers, with their quiet strength and experience, help the thief and the remaining rebels gather the necessary resources: food, supplies, weapons. They know the land better than anyone, and their knowledge of the local terrain is invaluable. They show you hidden paths, secret places, routes that no one from the outside world knows. These villages, tucked away in the hills and valleys, have long been untouched by the corruption and oppression that plague the larger towns. They've lived on the fringes, but now they're ready to step forward. The thefts, the raids, the small acts of resistance, They all build to something more. This isn't just about stealing cheese anymore. This is about rallying a new kind of army. One built not on fear, but on resolve. The rebellion that once felt like a pipe dream is now something tangible, something real. But it's not just about strategy and planning. It's about the people. The people who are willing to risk everything for the possibility of something better. The villagers, the survivors, the rebels, they all share one thing now. A vision for a world where they don't have to hide, where they don't have to live in fear. A world where the laws of the powerful don't rule their lives. As the days pass, the village begins to feel different. There's a new sense of purpose in the air. You see it in the way the villagers move, in the quiet determination of their actions. They may have been hiding for years, but now they're standing up. They're no longer willing to let the world decide their fate. They're making that decision for themselves. You stand with them, beside the thief, beside the others who have joined this cause. You can feel the weight of it all, the enormity of what you're about to do. It's not just a battle for survival anymore. It's a battle for freedom, for control, for the future. And yet, despite everything, there's still that nagging doubt, that fear that has followed you since the beginning. The rebellion is fragile. This new alliance, this new hope, it's delicate. One wrong move, and it could all fall apart. But you can't let that stop you. You can't let fear dictate your actions. You have to move forward, no matter the cost. One evening, as the sun sets behind the hills, casting long shadows over the village, the thief calls a meeting. The villagers gather around, some sitting on the ground, others standing, their faces lit by the warm glow of the fire. There's a heaviness in the air, but there's also something else, a sense of anticipation. This is it, the thief says, his voice strong, though his face is weary. We've gathered everything we need, the people who stand with us, the knowledge of the land, the supplies. It's time to make our move. He pauses, looking out over the group. His eyes meet yours, then the others, and there's a quiet understanding between you all. You're in this together. No matter what happens, this is your fight now. The rebellion, the dream, it's alive, but the battle is just beginning. We move at dawn, the thief says, his words carrying a weight of finality. We'll strike fast, strike hard, and we'll do it together. And just like that, the rebellion has a second chance. You can feel it in your bones. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of something new. The fight is far from over, but you're not backing down. You found your allies, you found your cause, and tomorrow you move forward. The fire crackles, the shadows stretch long, and the future feels uncertain. But for the first time in a long while, there's hope. A hope that maybe, just maybe, you can change the world, not by running, not by hiding, but by fighting. And this time, you'll fight to win.